When news broke of the massive explosion that wiped out 500 tons of Russian ammunition, it wasn't just another headline. It was a staggering event that immediately drew global attention. To put it into perspective, 500 tons of explosives is the equivalent of several thousand conventional bombs going off at once. The sheer scale of the blast was not only catastrophic for the immediate area, but also sent shockwaves, literally and figuratively, through military and political circles. Eyewitness accounts and early footage from the scene revealed a towering fireball, thick plumes of smoke rising for miles, and shockwaves that rattled buildings far from the epicenter. Local residents described the detonation as sounding like an earthquake mixed with thunder, with windows shattering and debris scattering across a wide radius. Emergency services rushed to contain fires and assess damage, but the magnitude of the blast left rescue teams overwhelmed. From a military standpoint, the destruction of such a vast stockpile represents a critical loss. Ammunition is the lifeblood of sustained combat operations, and losing 500 tons in a single moment cripples logistics, supply chains, and battlefield readiness. This isn't just a localized setback. It's a blow that reverberates through planning rooms, command structures, and long-term strategies. Every shell, rocket, or mortar destroyed is one less tool available in active operations, and replenishing such stockpiles is both costly and time-consuming. Analysts have compared the detonation to some of the largest accidental or deliberate ammunition depot explosions in recent history. Events of this scale are rare, but when they occur, they carry symbolic weight beyond the physical destruction. They highlight vulnerabilities, showing that even heavily guarded or strategically located depots are not immune to catastrophic failures or precision strikes. In this case, the magnitude of the loss raises questions. Was it sabotage? Was it a targeted attack? Or was it a tragic accident stemming from mishandling or poor storage protocols? The consequences extend far beyond the battlefield. A blast of this size disrupts not just military operations, but also civilian life in surrounding areas. Local communities face displacement, environmental hazards from burning explosives, and economic disruptions as infrastructure crumbles under the shockwave. Authorities must now grapple with cleanup, rebuilding, and ensuring the safety of residents, all while under the shadow of renewed military vulnerability. Strategically, the destruction of 500 tons of ammunition could alter the trajectory of regional conflicts. It strips away a substantial portion of available firepower and forces military planners to reassess offensive and defensive capabilities. In high-stakes conflicts, timing is everything. Losing such resources in the midst of active operations can stall momentum and shift the balance on the ground. In summary, this detonation was not just a physical explosion, but a symbolic one too. It shattered stockpiles, rattled confidence, and exposed cracks in logistical systems. The scale is almost unimaginable. 500 tons of ammunition gone in seconds. Whether it was an accident, an attack, or sabotage, one thing is clear: this blast has permanently rewritten the tactical landscape. The explosion that destroyed 500 tons of Russian ammunition is more than just a localized catastrophe. Its ripples extend outward, raising pressing questions about regional security and the stability of global supply chains. When a single detonation reaches this level of devastation, the aftereffects cannot be confined to the blast zone. It influences diplomacy, defense planning, and even economic forecasts far beyond the immediate region. From a security perspective, the detonation underscores a deep vulnerability in military logistics. Ammunition depots are intended to be strongholds, heavily guarded and strategically placed to ensure reliability. Yet the obliteration of such a massive stockpile suggests that no depot, no matter how fortified, is entirely safe. Neighboring states are now forced to evaluate their own stockpiles, questioning whether their depots might be similarly exposed to accidents, sabotage, or targeted strikes. The blast effectively sets off alarm bells across borders, pressing militaries to reconsider the way they store, transport, and safeguard munitions. For countries near the conflict zone, the explosion heightens fears of spillover instability. A weakened ammunition reserve may shift the balance of power, prompting opportunistic moves by rival forces or sparking escalations in contested regions. Already fragile border areas could face new tensions, as adversaries might view the loss as an opening to press their advantage. In such volatile climates, Even the perception of vulnerability can fuel political gambits and military maneuvers. Beyond security, the incident has far-reaching economic implications. Ammunition and weapons are not just tools of war. They are commodities tied to vast supply chains involving manufacturers, raw material suppliers, transport networks, and financial backers. The destruction of 500 tons of stock is not easily absorbed. It necessitates urgent replenishment, which in turn strains production lines. Defense industries may face sudden spikes in demand, disrupting supply schedules and diverting resources from other commitments. Countries reliant on shared suppliers could experience shortages or delays, sparking debates over procurement priorities and alliances. Furthermore, the explosion raises environmental and humanitarian concerns that intersect with supply chain disruptions. Explosive chemicals and debris contaminate soil and water sources, requiring specialized cleanup efforts. Roads, railways, and storage facilities in the vicinity are damaged, impeding the flow of goods. Not just military supplies, but also civilian necessities. Local businesses, farms, and trade routes can be paralyzed by infrastructure collapse, creating secondary economic crises in regions already stressed by conflict. On the diplomatic front, the scale of the detonation forces global powers to take notice. Allies and adversaries alike interpret the incident as both a weakness and a warning. For some, it's proof that stockpiles must be relocated, decentralized, or hardened against attack. For others, it's an opportunity to apply pressure, military, economic, or political, on a suddenly vulnerable opponent. Meanwhile, neutral states worry about the precedent. If such explosions can occur once, what prevents another, potentially closer to their own borders? In the broader global context, the blast also illustrates how modern conflicts are deeply interconnected with supply chains. Ammunition destroyed in one region can influence arms availability in another, alter export-import balances, and shift global defense spending. A single depot explosion thus cascades into boardroom decisions, parliamentary debates, and international negotiations. In essence, the shockwaves of this blast go far beyond the fireball. They shake the foundations of security planning, disrupt supply lines, and send tremors through the geopolitical order. This is not just a story of loss. It's a warning that in today's interconnected world, even a single explosion can destabilize an entire region and reverberate across the globe. The obliteration of 500 tons of Russian ammunition in a single explosion is not just a staggering statistic. It marks what many analysts are already calling a turning point in the ongoing conflict. In modern warfare, logistics and supply chains are as vital as tanks, aircraft, or troops. The sudden loss of such a vast amount of firepower cannot be dismissed as a minor setback. Instead, it is poised to reshape the dynamics of the battlefield, the strategies of commanders, and even the morale of those fighting on the front lines. Ammunition is the pulse of war. Every offensive maneuver, defensive stand, or artillery barrage depends on having a steady supply of shells, rockets, and bullets. The destruction of 500 tons of stock represents a crippling blow to this lifeline. In practical terms, this could mean fewer artillery strikes, delayed offensives, or forced rationing of munitions in critical areas. Military planners are now tasked with recalibrating strategies, adjusting timetables, and potentially abandoning planned operations due to reduced supply. What was once considered achievable on the battlefield may now be postponed or lost altogether. Historically, wars have often turned on logistical disasters rather than tactical defeats. From Napoleon's failed supply lines in Russia to World War II's fuel shortages, history repeatedly demonstrates that wars are won not just by soldiers, but by sustaining them with resources. In this case, the loss of 500 tons of ammunition could echo as one of those pivotal logistical failures that alter the broader trajectory of a conflict. Analysts warn that if resupply cannot match the pace of loss, the blast may prove as decisive as a major battlefield defeat. The psychological dimension is equally important. For troops and commanders, knowing that a massive stockpile has been wiped out shakes confidence. Soldiers depend on the assurance that resources will be there when needed. If that certainty crumbles, so does morale. On the other hand, adversaries may view the detonation as a symbolic victory, fueling their confidence and emboldening their actions. Such shifts in morale can sometimes be as impactful as shifts in material strength influencing decisions on both sides of the front line. International observers are also framing the explosion as a benchmark event in the conflict. Military think tanks are already cataloging it among the largest ammunition depot losses in recent decades, placing it alongside incidents in Ukraine, Syria, and even Cold War-era accidents. This classification elevates the event from a localized disaster to a historically significant turning point, studied not just for its immediate impact, but for the lessons it offers future military planners. Politically, the repercussions are just as profound. A sudden, massive loss of ammunition exposes vulnerabilities in military logistics and opens governments up to criticism, both domestically and internationally. Leaders must now reassure their populations, rebuild trust in their armed forces, and prove that such an incident will not derail broader objectives. Rivals, meanwhile, are quick to exploit the event as propaganda, framing it as evidence of incompetence or weakness. In conclusion, the detonation of 500 tons of Russian ammunition is not simply a destructive event. It is a defining moment. It underscores the fragility of even the most prepared militaries, redefines immediate strategies, and stands as a reminder that in modern conflict, a single catastrophic loss can change the entire trajectory of war. This blast may well be remembered as the moment when the tide began to turn. Thanks for watching this.